Hey folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey. Today we're taking a look at this guy right here. It's a two-player card game, basically, where you have different battlegrounds. You're trying to fight over those different battlegrounds. You get victory points and bonuses and all of these different kinds of things. It's a two-player back and forth game. Let's get down to the table so I can show you. So in Fight for Olympus, you have this board that is set out in front of, in between the two players. This is Troy, Delphi, and Olympus itself. And there are 3 sections in Olympus. There are 2 sections here in Delphi and 1 down here in Troy. So this represents the board that you're going to be having. There is a victory point marker here, damage tokens, and then different kinds of gifts that you can get at Delphi. Then you have this deck of cards from which you're going to be dealt a starting hand of 6 cards. But before that, you have to remove 20 cards from this deck, then you can deal them out. So let's go ahead and take care of that. So now each person has 6 cards dealt. We take the 20 cards that we took out of the deck and throw them into the box. They're not going to be used in the game at all. So I guess there's some replayability value there. Now the cards have a few things on them that you need to be aware of. First of all, up here is where the cost of the card is going to be. So in order to play Pandora, I would have to play 1 card, basically discard 1 blue card out of my hand so that I could play Pandora onto one of these areas down here on the board. Furthermore, she has a special ability down here. Every time Pandora attacks and inflicts damage, I get to draw a card. Then down here it tells you what kind of card it is. And this is either going to say a hero, equipment, or a soldier. And there are special abilities that affect all of those different kinds of cards. This is how much attack Pandora does, and this is how much her defense value is. Now, there are these symbols here, which tells you what kind of special ability it is. So basically, this means that it's an attacking special ability. Every time Pandora attacks, blah, 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 blah. Then there are cards like this, which have a little lightning bolt, which basically says when you play Pleiades, draw 1 card. So this guy's effect happens as soon as you play him down onto the board. And then there are also other cards that have a little circular arrow here, which means that the effect is always in effect and can always be used. So during the course of your turn, you basically have 3 things that you can do. You can play cards from your hand. You can play any number of cards from your hand as long as you have the resources to pay for it. And then you can attack the other side of the board. So basically, if Pleiades is here, then he's going to be attacking this sector, not this one or any of the other ones. He attacks directly across the board from where he is. And then you have a draw phase at the end of your turn where you draw 2 cards and add them to your hand, and that's the end of your turn. So basically, attacking is probably the most integral part of this game because it's going to affect what you can and cannot do throughout the course of the game. You have different battlegrounds here, Troy, Delphi, and Olympus. If you battle in Troy and there is no one to oppose you, then your battle bonus is to simply draw a card and put it into your deck. If there is somebody opposing you, you would deal damage according to your attack value to that person's card, and if the number of damage tokens ever exceeds their defensive value, well then that player is discarded. That card is discarded rather. Here in Delphi, there are 2 places, and when you battle unopposed, you get to take one of these gifts of Delphi onto your side of the table, which will then, you can use these to pay for the different resource costs in your hand. So if I had this on my side of the table during my turn, I could play this card just by simply using that. I would not have to discard a card out of my hand. And then if you battle in these 3 places over here in Olympus, if you battle unopposed, then you get a victory point for winning that battle. There are 3 ways that the game can end. First way is by one person getting the victory point marker all the way over to this side of their board. Another way is for the draw deck to be depleted at any point during the game. Whoever, if that ever happens, whoever has the most points is the winner. For example, if I had only 1 point and the discard pile is depleted, then I win because the victory point marker is on my side of the track. And then finally, the last way that someone can win the game is if all 6 of their battlegrounds are full at the beginning of their turn. In other words, they have filled up all of their battlegrounds. Their opponent was not able to kill one of their heroes or soldiers, and then at the beginning of their next turn, all of their places are filled. That is an automatic victory. Now, on the first turn, the person who goes first has to skip one of those 3 things. Usually, you'll probably skip the attacking phase and just play cards and then draw cards into your hand, and that's the end of your turn. But the first person always can only do 2 things on their turn, not all 3. All right, so on my turn, I'm going to go ahead and play Pleiades, and we're going to play him right here. And I'm going to discard a blue card in order to play him, and because of that cost right there. And it says when you play Pleiades, you get to draw a card. So I would draw a card from my deck and add it to my hand. And now I'm going to go ahead and attack. Instead of skipping attacking, I want to skip the drawing cards phase. And so every hero or soldier that you have that has at least 1 attacking ability attacks when you go through your attack phase. So when you attack, you always start with your person that is closest to the realm of Olympus and go down. So we always start from here and go down this way. So Pleiades would attack first. He is also the only one that I have. So he attacks unopposed, which gets him a victory point, and that's the end of my turn. I would normally draw cards, but because it's the first person and the first turn, I skip 1 phase, and that's going to be the draw cards phase. On my opponent's phase, they drew a hand where most of their cards don't even have a cost, but at the same time, one of those doesn't have any attack strength. One of them is only a 1/1, and the other 2 are just equipment cards. So again, this isn't a bad hand, but you get to see how this was a little bit different than the hand that the other person drew. So these 2 cards, I don't even have the right kinds of things to pay for them, so I'm not going to be able to play these right now. But these I can go ahead and play rather simply. So we're going to go ahead and first of all play the Dardani right here so that they can attack up in Olympus unopposed. And we're actually going to add a shield to them, which will raise their stats by 1 each. And then we'll play the Amazonas as well over here, and we'll also give them a helmet. Now, it says when you play this helmet, you may inflict 1 damage on the opposing unit. So if there were a unit over here on the other side of the Amazons, then they would be able to inflict a damage on them. But since there isn't, that has actually no effect. So what we're going to do here is go through the attack phase. And so we start down here and go down. The Amazons don't actually have an attack value. They're just holding this spot so that the person who's here will not be able to gain victory points if they attack. But this place, they do have attack, so they get a victory point for attacking unopposed. And then we go down, nobody else is there. We draw 2 cards to end the turn, and it's the first person's turn again. And this is how the game plays. It's a very back and forth kind of game, very quick, very fast. So that is Fight for Olympus from Mayfair Games. Let's get to the stuff that I liked about it first. I liked the artwork. It was not the best that I'd seen in that genre of artwork, I guess you could say, but it was very good, and I enjoyed the thematic flair that it gave the game. I like how fast it plays. Your turns are over pretty quickly. It seems like it could be a little bit prone for analysis paralysis, but I didn't experience that too much during the games that I played, so I'll give it a pass on this one. Your turn does go fairly quickly. You know, usually going into your turn exactly what you want to do, what you need to do, and sometimes you don't have a whole lot that you can do as far as playing cards from your hand. So with that in mind, it does play very quickly. It is a very quick back and forth kind of game, and I did like that a lot. Now, things that I didn't like about the game. Well, it's one of those games that reminds me of Balloon Cup and how much I loved that game. I didn't love that game very much. Because it was very restrictive. Like I said earlier, there are some times where you simply cannot do anything on your turn just because you don't have the right cards in your hand. And I understand with a card game that that's how it's going to be sometimes. It just seems like it happens a lot more in this game than it has in other games that I've played with similar issues down that road. For example, you take 20 cards out of the deck before you start the game, and it just, I don't know, it just kind of dawned on me maybe part of the balance of the game is thrown out with those 20 cards. I don't know, it just feels that way because there were literally some games where my opponent won simply because I could do nothing to stop it. Not that they were playing poorly, not that they were playing better than I was or anything like that. I just couldn't stop them. And it seemed like I also couldn't do, they could do no wrong. So, I don't know. For what it is, a very light, fast two-player card game, I guess it's okay. But there are so many other light, fast two-player card games that are out there that I'd much rather play those games than this game. It's not necessarily so much, I think, that this game is bad per se. It's just not good enough to hold its own against these other games that are already out there. I mean, Seven Wonders Duels plays pretty fast, and it's so much better than this one. Thunder and Lightning is a two-player card game that plays very fast as well, and it's so much better than this card game. Battle for Hill 218, while it's much more simple than this game, I would much rather play that. Nirashima Hex Convoy. Rather play, and I really don't mean to bash this into the ground. I'm just simply saying that this is a meh game in a very crowded, tough market, at least from my perspective. And I fear that Fight for Olympus just doesn't have the fight that it needs left in it to go into this market and survive. But that's just me. I could be very tainted here. Please always try before you buy. Try it before you take my word for it. But as for me and my household, we're going to hard knock on this one and just pass it, because we already have a whole lot of good two-player card games that already fill that hole. So that is Fight for Olympus. See you on the flip side.